This is Eshkalar, and I'm doing a multiple part series called Your Fighting Arts Are Wrong. Where I talk philosophy more than technique, but occasionally I talk technique too. Me not being an expert, of course. But I'm very old and I've seen a lot of things and I thought about what I saw, especially if it was titties. But in this case, we're talking boxing. Now, boxers, your boxing is wrong. And I'm not saying that in a pejorative way. I like boxing as far as a discipline. I like boxing as far as a strategical art. And I'm not kidding, I'm using those words appropriately. But boxing and bar fighting aren't too good together. And boxing and the octagon aren't too good together. Because when there's a ground game involved, boxing is not the best choice. Now, if you're a boxer, you're used to a specific area of competition, right? You have a ring, four corners, right? Hard corners, and then you have ropes, 3 or 2 ropes, right? Between all the corners. And they're elastic to a certain degree. Or at least they're not metal, they're not bang. So it's not a railing. And then you have a floor that's often canvas, and so it's a little resilient. I wouldn't want to fall on it, but I would rather fall on it than concrete. So there is an opponent. He's chosen, selected, or she is chosen, selected, and there is a referee. That's the other part of a fight. A boxing fight is a very highly constrained competition between 2 roughly evenly matched men or women. That's the allure of boxing, is the idea that 2 fairly well matched people could give a good show and a good account of one another, right? Now, in Shorin-ryu karate, as opposed to boxing, I was taught something called one-strike fighting. I'm not arguing anybody with this as a tactic or a philosophy. I'm just explaining something from my history, which gives me a unique perspective on this whole topic. A boxer has an option for one-strike fighting. It's called a haymaker, right? But against an experienced opponent, that is unlikely to be the case. Now, it can happen. But ordinarily, a boxing match is an endurance match. I mean, you can certainly do enough damage to an opponent to put him down. But in general, boxing matches run to the end. 3 minutes, 30 seconds of panting yourself back to life. 3 minutes, 30 seconds of panting yourself back to life. And it goes on for 3 rounds. Or what professional bouts can go for, 13 or 15 now? I forget. I get bored that far up, stop counting, and start just look at the ring girls. Oh, if I were 900 years younger, I'd tell you what, really. So anyway, so a boxer has a peculiar and specific kind of a way to approach a fight. And it is heavily constrained by rules and restrictions. Not too many boxing matches that follow agreed on parameters will involve a 600-pound man and a 130-pound man. There are alternative shows that I call freak shows where they have this kind of demonstration, but it's really, they're meant to promote a narrative and to sell product instead of to show an interesting comparison of styles and abilities and achievements. So anyway, if a boxer went to fight in the ring, right, and as he took his step out of the corner, the ring changed to a Minecraft board, right, where you have hills and trees and you have, stuff in the way, right, and the ground's uneven, and there's mud there, and it becomes a different fight for him. If, in addition, his opponent is fairly well trained as a boxer, but really well trained as a wrestler, manages to get a hold of him and go to the ground, how does that fight go? This isn't likely to happen. But this is what happens when the boxer goes out of the ring and has a fight in the real world. By real world, I mean the world outside the ring, the world where the rules never apply. They don't even pay lip service to them. Whereas in the ring, even if sometimes the rules don't apply, they're supposed to apply. If you were honorable, you would always apply them. And honor is perhaps not appreciated the way it should be, but then again, it never was. Anyway. And so are they all honorable men was an insult from Shakespeare. Anyway, when that fighter goes to fight in the real world and he's outside, the ground is uneven and it might be wet and it might be raining and it might be dark and there might be things in the way. There might be shopping carts, there might be light posts, there might be curbs and concrete, there might be a bar full of obstructions. And your opponent may grapple you, right? Like it might happen. You can even whack a guy pretty good and he can fall forward and grab you before you can react, or you may not have enough room. Like I said, situational awareness is important here. Knowing where your exits are, knowing what's in your way, knowing what your ground is like. It's extremely important in these situations. More important than it is in the ring, where you know what the ground is like, and you know something about your opponent. And you know, and you know, and you know, and you know what the rules are, and you know. But in this bar fight, you don't know if this guy's packing heat and going to pull it. You don't know if this guy's got a blade, because you don't see his other hand. You don't know. You don't know if the two guys behind you are like keeping people away or if they're his friends. You don't know. So a boxer would have trouble, might have trouble, could have trouble, probably will have trouble taking his fight out into the real world. Our convention is that men fight standing up, which is absolutely not the truth. It only happens in movies. In real life, all fights go to the ground. I'm asking you MMA people out there, in real life, what do fights do? Do they stand on their feet or do they go to the ground? If the answer is they go to the ground, and I think you boxers know this, then boxing is wrong as a combat sport. As a combat art, I'm sorry. As a combat sport, it is still number one. And a trained boxer could kill a person like me very easily. Just with a single punch, he'd know how to hit me, he'd know where. And he'd think like, yeah, he's brittle here, so give him some of that. Yeah, come back from that, immortal. I can't do that in this world. No ring, remember. So, Brizonar, wherever you are, I hope you're getting more sex than I am, because I ain't getting none. So anyway, so boxers, your boxing is wrong. I recommend to you, I'm not a boxer, I'm not a professional fighter of any kind, never was, but I recommend to you as a fighting arts philosopher, which I'm allowed to be without any accreditation, right? All you need to do is read a lot and think about what you read and get punched in the jaw enough times to realize you ain't great at it and somebody else might be. So, my suggestion to you is that you all learn a ground art. You don't have to be the best at it. You just have to be able to roll out of the problems you may face with an untrained wrestling opponent the same way you can master an untrained boxing opponent. You don't have to be that much better as you are as a boxer. You need to be able to handle yourself on the ground. And you need to maintain situational awareness and know when you're going to the ground where your head's going. Is that a hard thing? Is that the ring around the bottom of the foot ring on the bar you're headed toward? Is your opponent headed toward that? Now you're going to be a murderer if you don't stop it. You need to know too many things. How many people are behind you? How many people are around you? Who's holding weapons? Who's not? What is a potential weapon? Are you the favorite here or is this guy the favorite? These are all things you have to be thinking about in real time in a split second before somebody kills you. And in that situation, your boxing is wrong. If it comes to two men standing in the ring, we've seen this before. Boxers win. If you let people go to the ground, boxers don't win as often, even in the ring where the boxer understands everything. And I can cite the Inoki Ali fight for that. Watch what happens. Inoki knows that if Ali connects, that Inoki, who's got the biggest chin on earth. If anybody's got a shock absorber chin, it should have been Antonio Inoki. But he knows that if Ali hits him in that jaw, that big lantern jaw of his, that he's going down and staying down is going to make Japan look bad. So he did something he thought that Ali could not deal with. He went to the ground. He didn't take him to the ground, because to take him to the ground, you'd have to endure an Ali punch. Think about that. In those days, that was a very formidable thing. That was considered like a Tyson punches in the last 20 years. Yeah. And Inoki didn't want to take that punch. He knew it would put him down. And he might not hit him. He might get a hold. You don't know. But he thought his best bet was just go to the ground. And he did. He went to the ground and started kicking. Ali got mad. Ali said some things that today would be considered totally inappropriate. It's a different time. And Ali was a victim of a system that abused people on account of race and sexual preference. But even he was caught up in the moment. So Inoki kept kicking Ali and kept kicking Ali and kept kicking Ali and kept kicking Ali hard. This giant Japanese guy who had trained running and was a wrestler, had cardio. He wasn't a mat wrestler, he was a pro wrestler. And pro wrestling, like boxing, prizes cardio. And so he could last as long as Ali. But he didn't want to take any punches, and he didn't know how to throw them. Not real ones. He could throw kayfabe punches, right? Oh yeah, it's, that really hurts. It's a chest slapping party. So at any rate, so he didn't want to take a punch from Ali, and he knew he couldn't beat him with punches, but he could kick him. And it turns out it was a long fight, and Ali was very angry. And you saw as time went on that Ali realized how much damage he was taking to those beautiful legs of his. I mean beautiful in terms of works of art for the art of boxing. The best legs in the world for cardio, for back pedaling, forward pedaling, 15 minutes of full out performance. Unbelievable cardio. And those legs of his, which were primary to supporting that fight game, were being destroyed by this big Japanese cheater. I recommend to all of you fighting arts enthusiasts to go watch the Ali Inoki fight, I-N-O-K-I. You will find it very interesting. You'll think that guy's cheating, but no, this was all decided before it happened. So this is a fight in a boxing ring with a referee and many boxing rules in place, omitting only that fighting could not be done from the ground. That's the only thing they changed. And Inoki tore up Ali's beautiful legs. Ali was never the same after. It was evil. Ali was fighting a fight. He knew how to do this, but Inoki was aiming to end Ali's career. Wow. What would that do for Inoki? Wait, what would it do for Ali? Ali can fight anywhere, fight anyone, anytime. Ignore the referee and the squared circle on the canvas. Ignore that and just look at him beating this giant guy. Okay, who's a wrestler, mind you. In Inoki, all he needed to do was come through that match without being socked in the jaw one time. Because he could take a hit to the shoulder, he could take a hit to the chest. He's a big, strong man taking a lot of punches from people. But he couldn't take an Ali punch to the jaw. He would go right down. Because Ali was the hardest hitter in the world and knew how to land. I mean, who would you trust to hit somebody right with his fist? In my generation, Muhammad Ali. All right, so anyway. But take him out of that circle. Take him out of the squared circle. Take him out of the flat floor, right? Take him out of the light garb and the padded fists. And you have a different fight game. A fight game where a boxer is at a disadvantage at the club, at the bar, in the parking lot behind the bar. So, Remember, you could be the world's best boxer, and I hope you are, right? But you might want to think a little bit about learning a ground game, you know? Maybe, I don't know, maybe go to a high school wrestling coach and say, hey, pardon me, man, but could I pay you a little bit on the side to show me how to roll around on the mat without getting mastered? And bet you he could show you. And that would put you just enough of your game in that you would have that extra regimen of fighting when it's needed most outside of the circle.